Most people see fire and only see destruction. Flames, heat, danger. But hidden inside one of the most frightening fires in the Bible is a powerful secret. A secret about God's protection. A secret about God's presence. And a mystery that has puzzled readers of the Bible for centuries. Because when 3 young men were thrown into a blazing furnace, they were not alone inside the flames. The real mystery of this story is not the fire. The real mystery is this: who was the 4th man in the furnace? To understand what happened, we must travel back to the ancient kingdom of Babylon. Babylon was ruled by a powerful king named Nebuchadnezzar. One day, the king built a massive golden statue. It towered high above the city, and he commanded that when the music played, everyone in the kingdom must bow down and worship it. Crowds gathered, the music sounded, and people everywhere fell to the ground. But 3 young men remained standing. Their names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They refused to bow because they knew something greater than the king. There is only one true God. When Nebuchadnezzar heard this, he became furious. His pride had been challenged. So he ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual. The flames roared. The heat became unbearable. From a human point of view, their situation looked completely hopeless. Yet the 3 young men answered the king with remarkable courage. They said, "Our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of fire. But even if he does not, we will not bow." Their faith did not depend on knowing the outcome. Their faith depended on trusting God completely. The king ordered the soldiers to throw them into the blazing furnace. The fire was so intense that even the soldiers themselves were overcome by the flames. The furnace roared. The heat was overwhelming. Everyone watching expected the 3 young men to be destroyed immediately. But something happened inside that furnace that shocked the most powerful king in Babylon. Something no one expected. The king stepped forward and looked into the flames. At first, he saw the fire. Then he looked closer, and what he saw next changed the entire story. The king turned to his advisors and said, "Did we not throw 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered, "Yes, O king." But the king said, "I see 4 men walking in the fire, and they are not hurt." The fire was still blazing, but the 3 young men were unharmed, and someone was standing with them, walking beside them, protecting them. For centuries, Christians have reflected on this mysterious figure. Many believe the 4th man in the fire was more than an angel. It was a glimpse of Christ himself, the one who walks with his people, even in suffering. The miracle was not that the fire disappeared. The furnace was still blazing, but the presence of God changed everything. The place meant for destruction became the place where God revealed his protection. The 3 young men were not panicking. They were not trying to escape. The Bible says they were walking freely inside the flames. When the king saw this, he rushed toward the furnace and called them out. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Everyone gathered around them, and what they saw was astonishing. The fire had no power over them. Not a single hair on their heads had been burned. Their clothes were untouched, and the Bible says something remarkable. There was not even the smell of smoke on them. The same fire that was meant to destroy them had no power over them. Why? Because God had placed his protection around them, and because God himself had been present with them in the fire. This ancient story carries a powerful message for us today. Sometimes life brings moments that feel overwhelming. Moments that feel like standing inside a furnace. Moments of fear, pressure, uncertainty. But the story of the fiery furnace reminds us of a truth that brings deep peace. We are never alone. Just as the fourth figure stood beside the three young men, Christ stands with his people today. His presence changes everything. The fire may still burn around us, but his presence protects our hearts. The three young men walked calmly inside the flames because they trusted the God who was with them, and their courage invites us to live in the same way. Not with panic, not with fear, but with a quiet confidence that God is present with us, even in the most difficult moments. At the beginning of this story, the furnace looked like the end, a place of destruction, a place of death. But by the end of the story, the furnace became something else entirely. It became the place where God revealed his power, the place where his presence was seen, the place where faith overcame fear. The same God who stood with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego still walks with his people today. So when life feels overwhelming, remember the fourth man in the fire. Remember that Christ is present. And remember, no flame is stronger than the protection of God. Sometimes the hardest moments in life become the places where we discover that God is closer than we ever imagined. The story of the fiery furnace reminds us that we are never alone. Christ walks with his people, even in the fire. If this story strengthened your faith, stay with us as we continue exploring the powerful stories of the Bible together. And perhaps ask yourself one question. If you had looked into that furnace, what would you have seen?